occupation?
Full-time dad, British Army veteran, Prince of England, Duke.
Are any of those occupations?
He didn't mention Archwell.
Well, they're all former jobs that he listed off. That's what really made me think, okay, and it made me also think, is he unemployed?
There was so many tensions about the family's security. Tensions that, in fact, Harry said prevented him from allowing Meghan and the children to come over.
This nonsense that he requires armed protection is purely, in my opinion, an ego trip. They could have come in quickly, succinctly, and you and I wouldn't have known they were there. Engage brain before opening mouth.
This week on the Royals Uncensored, Harry's secret summit. The Duke and his family travelled unnoticed to a private reunion with the King. So why the soap opera about terror threats and taxpayer-funded security?
Meanwhile, Meghan makes her big TV comeback, well, kind of, as a guest on Australian MasterChef. And what does Harry actually do now that he's retired from royal duties? Well, he's got some ideas. Plus, great news, we think we might win an Emmy. Well, as Meghan's ridiculed Netflix show is nominated for the prestigious prize, I think there's surely hope for us all.
Let's hope so. And coming up, a summer of healing for the Prince and Princess of Wales. We've got the inside story on Princess Catherine's stunning return to Wimbledon's Royal Box and what they'll be up to over the summer. Plus, we'll be raising a glass for Queen Camilla's birthday. She's 79 and she's the King's secret weapon in the monarchy's toughest year. I'm Katie Nichol.
I'm Jo Elvin, and alongside us is, of course, co-host and royal butler, our very own secret weapon who keeps the joint classy. It's Grant Harold.
And also joining us is Dai Davies. Now, he is the former head of security for the royal household. He was overseeing royal protection from, is it right, Dai, 1994 to 1998? Have I got that right?
Yes, roughly right, yes. We won't quarrel over a month or two.
Well, welcome to the show. It's wonderful to have you on. I would like to kick off, really, by just reflecting on last week, because as the world now knows, unless you were hiding under a rock, there was a pretty important reunion between Prince Harry, Meghan and their children and the King. A reunion that we didn't know. We didn't know whether it was actually going to happen or not, largely because there was so many tensions about the family's security. Tensions that, in fact, Harry said prevented him from allowing Meghan and the children to come over for some of the public engagements last week that Meghan was due to attend, and Harry making it very clear that he didn't feel that his children would be safe on British soil without getting what he claimed was much needed, round-the-clock, taxpayer-funded protection. And yet we now know, because it was confirmed by an aide at Buckingham Palace on Friday, that a meeting did take place. And guess what? The family were able to not only get into Highgrove, but get into the UK without anyone knowing, without any photographs being taken. We then understand they spent the weekend at Althorpe, or at least some of that weekend there, because Harry was photographed, but again, no photographs of Meghan and the children. And it does beg the question, was all that fuss over the security needed in the first place? And I really just want to kick the show off with your thoughts about Harry kicking up, well, frankly, a stink and a storm. Let's not forget, a storm that's ended up in not just the High Court, but the Court of Appeal over his apparent need for security. Where do you stand on all of this?
Well, a very good afternoon. As I've said on many, many occasions, on many, many programmes, if they came quietly, as you've said, if they had no fuss, no slipping information to their favourite broadcasters, as they do, then they could have come in quickly, succinctly, and you and I wouldn't have known they were there. So I often say, engage brain before opening mouth. Or if I open my mouth, then don't make it worse by suggesting daft things. I mean, he really has taken the biscuit, and I congratulate you and all your colleagues on the Daily Mail who were vindicated by the evidence you gave, which was succinct, honest. And as you know, I know a lot of people at the Daily Mail. I have great faith in your integrity. And so I was delighted that once again, common sense was applied by this particular judge, and you were vindicated. So I just wanted to get that off my chest.
Thank you, Dai. That's much appreciated. Thank you.
In terms of his security and all the rest of it, as you know, I've been in this game a very, very long time at home and abroad. I just despair when I hear some of the so-called experts talk about his need for X, Y, and Z. The truth is, the last time in the United Kingdom, a royalty protection officer, as far as I know, drew a firearm, had the need for a firearm, was in 1974 when Inspector Beaton was shot by a lunatic trying to kidnap her. Even when Queen Camilla, as she was now, was attacked going into a riot, and somebody put a pole through her window, nearly taking her head off, the officers didn't pull their guns. So this nonsense that he requires armed protection is purely, in my opinion, an ego trip and is not necessary. And the so-called nonsense he doesn't get liaison, of course he gets liaison. And if there was an iota of intelligence or information from Al-Qaeda or anyone else that he was under more risk than you as entertainers, you as public figures, then he would get it. Of course he would. Nobody in their right minds would let him go or his family unprotected, in my opinion.
So, Dai, just to surmise, you have complete faith in the system as it is. Can you just explain to our viewers succinctly, because it is quite complicated, who RAVEC are and what they do, and actually why, crucially, the King couldn't intervene in the Home Office's decision not to grant Harry security on this occasion, even if, as a father and grandfather, he had wanted to?
Well, the situation is there is a structure and system. It wasn't there when I was doing the job. At that time, it was much smaller, much closer, with a member from the Metropolitan Police, the household, and the Home Office. And it was quick and it was succinct. And people normally listened to the expertise of the intelligence service and the Metropolitan Police and my command. That's what we were there to do. In my day, we had over 22 members of the royal family getting 24-hour protecting. As you know, that's been reduced, rightly or wrongly. I frankly think it's nonsense only to give protection to those just for specific events. Because if I was a terrorist, I would be carrying out a reconnaissance, and I would take them out as and when I felt there, not necessarily at an official function. However, be that as it may, the powers that be now have decided, RAVAC, Royal and VIP Executive Committee, which comprises of members of the household, which Harry particularly doesn't like, the men in grey suits. Well, I wore a grey suit, so he presumably didn't like me much then either. So what I'm trying to say is they are then advised by the Metropolitan Police, Royalty Protection Command, and also officers from the intelligence services, I understand. And they then decide, with a huge amount of reconnaissance and research, to look at each individual, and that's what they're going to do now with MPs. It's not just royals, but it's hugely expensive, as you know. It's hugely, it requires people with a huge degree of experience. To be a protection officer takes months and months and has to be based on a wide knowledge of tests and procedure, a national one, and the one, I'm pleased to say, that was brought in when I was there. You know, you have to have the highest standards in terms of firearms, advanced driving, anti-hijack, first aid at the highest level, you name it. You also have to have diplomatic skills. And what they do, royalty protection officers, from the rank of superintendent, which normally accompanies the king or queen, all the way down to a constable or sergeant who's been selected. And they are with them as far as possible 24/7 when they're away from the official residence, which again are protected by the uniform. So that's it in a nutshell.
Dai, I'm wondering what you think of that wild card that was thrown in just before Harry's visit, where his team presented the report that he had reportedly 6 jihadi terrorist plots against him that were security risks. Did you find that credible or helpful? What was your view on that and coming in, as it did at the last minute before his visit?
Well, the truth is that report had been put in February, so there was nothing news about it. It had been analysed, subjected, I presume, because I didn't look at it, presume it was looked at carefully. And as I say, if there'd been an iota of real evidence as against rumour, innuendo, and possibly putting 2 and 2 and making 10, yes, there are, and there have been, as you know, there have been threats against Harry. People have gone to prison for it. But equally so, if you are a protected person, there's an obligation on you to take advice appropriately, to keep a low profile, to stop telling everybody where you're going worldwide, and some of it with very dangerous people, some of them corrupt people, and so on. I could go on all day. What is wrong? And these are meant to be people who were in royalty protection, as I understand it. Well, with great respect, they allowed him to get into a yellow cab when they were so-called chased by the paparazzi in New York. What kind of protection team does that? And so I don't want to take them apart, but with great respect, it's not the way I would advise or in fact lead a team if I was in charge now.
And in the end, it was all actually very cool and calm. And Katie, you had a great piece in Vanity Fair where you talked about who masterminded the operation and the trip into Highgrove and how it was all planned. What can you tell us?
Well, guess who it was that masterminded it? The King. And Dai, you're just talking about keeping things below the radar, not overcomplicating things. And that's exactly what the King did, and realised that there was a window of opportunity for Harry and Meghan and the children to come and see him at Highgrove, when actually there was another event going on at Highgrove, a Chanel event. So they were able to get the car in without being seen. There are several entrances to Highgrove. I think they came through the back, and nothing was reported. No photographs were released. This much longed for meeting, I think, actually on both sides, because I think clearly the King has wanted to see his grandchildren. He does want to reconcile with Harry, and Harry's been desperate to have this meeting, was able to go ahead. And I think the fact that it does seem to, I think, highlight the point that we're all making on this panel, which is that really Harry is able to come in and out of Britain without the need for this 24/7 protection. Dai, one thing I wanted to ask you was, with regards to Harry and his appeal, because we know he has appealed Ravek's decision, the fact that this visit has happened incredibly successfully, the meeting went place, and as I said earlier, we understand he also spent time with the Spencer family in Althorpe, so he has therefore been able to travel from London to Birmingham, Birmingham to Highgrove, Highgrove to Althorpe, and probably other places in between, without so much as being seen. Does this weaken, in your opinion, his case for any further appeals?
Well, yes, very much so. And what also weakens his case is the fact that this has been considered by the courts, much of it in camera. In other words, secret information coming from both sides, presumably. That was discussed, it was overturned. And yet again, here we are again, having an appeal, having this, having that. It never seems to stop. Well, I hope the court case where the learned judge, Nicklin, came in favour of the Daily Mail. It shows that you can have and think things, but you have to either prove it or show evidence to what you're claiming is true. And unfortunately for Harry and his merry team of individuals, from Elton John and all the others that brought this case, they didn't seem to realise, and they weren't briefed by their lawyers, of the elements that's required in a civil case. Suspicion, as you know, is not enough. And again, providing some data, some of it, I suspect, going back some years, doesn't convince professionals today that this requires the threat level. And again, these people don't sit there playing Monopoly. They are seasoned, experienced people. The problem is Harry has got it into his head that the establishment, men in grey suits, have it against him the same way as the press and Uncle Tom Cobley and all. He doesn't seem to realise that his persona now is a non-working royal, that he's not entitled. He reminds me of Edward VIII, frankly, and all that shenanigans that went on after he abdicated and eventually married Mrs. Simpson in 1937. As you know, he kept insisting he had X, Y, and Z. He still wanted all the trappings of royalty, but he had chosen to abdicate. I see a lot of similarities, not only in an American wife who was very demanding, who frankly didn't like the British very much, rightly or wrongly, because we didn't treat her very well, but she was twice divorced and did tell lies to get a divorce. So it's an interesting comparison, if you like, with what was going on with his great-great-great-uncle and the shenanigans that went on there. That's my opinion, anyway.
Well, Dai, we're always grateful for your opinion and the expertise, particularly given the years that you served the royal household. So you bring a very unique and much valued perspective. Thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure. Nice to see you again.
Thank you.
Well, joining us in the studio now is commentator Samara Gill. Welcome. It's great to have you for the first time on Royals Uncensored.
It's great to be here.
Welcome to the show.
What I want to know is what we all think was actually the conversation at Highgrove. Someone give me some details.
To be a fly on the wall.
You can't talk about if you read any good books. You can't, I mean...
Maybe they talked about the garden.
Maybe the meeting might have happened in the garden. I mean, what I was told, I didn't want to sort of go too much into it with Dai because I was so fascinated by what he was saying about the security side. But
it's also rational and factual.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But what I found so interesting was that it was ultimately the king who managed to pull off this 11th hour meeting, cloak and dagger. So I was told that no one knew about it apart from the king, Meghan and Harry. There was a call made from Highgrove because Camilla and the king spend their weekends often separately, which we'll talk about a little bit later on in the show. It's not as strange as it sounds. And the king called the queen and said, this meeting is going to happen. They're on their way. She jumped into the car, didn't tell anyone. Her children didn't know. No one knew at all. And it was very much, I was told, the king's way of showing this can be done without the need for taxpayer-funded security.
Yes.
Yep.
This can be done without anybody needing to find out about it. But the caveat was, this is a litmus test for trust. No pictures to be released, nothing to be leaked out. And as yet,
No tape
several
recorders.
days, we're nearly a week on, nothing's come out.
Just walk through this metal detector, please, Harry and Meghan. Yeah, it's like,
And leave your camera at the door.
Yeah, pretty much. Leave the Netflix crew behind, please. I mean, yeah, it was really interesting how it was able to be kept private. And that's the thing that, Harry and Meghan have been harking on about since they Mexited all those years ago. We want privacy. And clearly that was able to happen and on private grounds, not royal ones or palace grounds, as you would say. So it was actually kind of a testament to the fact of, it can be done. They can recoup that relationship privately without media scrutiny. But it just depends who might break that eventually, who might break that trust.
Well, I think that's why the king wanted to limit it to just the four of them knowing, because...
But that's what begs my question is, why do we all know about it now?
Well, curiously, because the palace confirmed it, which was unusual. But what I wonder, Joe, if that was a way of the palace just making a clear point to the Sussex team, we're controlling the narrative. Grant, what do you think?
Yeah, I think so. And also, I think the fact that it took place at Highgrove, I think, is quite important because Harry knows Highgrove. I mean, that's we spent many, many years. And I think it's, if I can say, it's a kind of safe area for him, if that makes sense, and for the king. I mean, it's where they had many, many, many happy memories over the years. And I know we kind of joked a moment ago about the gardens, but I can imagine them all sitting in the garden, on the terrace, just outside the house. It's very private. There's no one around. Well, obviously, apart from the event going on just across the way. But
it was the perfect foil. And can I just say, to your full credit, Grant, you said on this show the other week that you thought Highgrove was a very plausible place for this meeting to
I had a
take
feeling
place.
Only because of how private it is. The king has always called it his sanctuary. And weirdly, there is a sanctuary in the grounds, which is a little chapel. But he called it his sanctuary because it's the one place he can get away from everything. And he feels that there, he gets away from everything. And I think to have that meeting there, it's just a safe area for all of them. And I'm amazed, and I think it's wonderful that the Queen did, as you said, made that short distance from Rainmill to Highgrove to be there, whether that to be his support, whether that to be... There's many reasons it could be, but I just think it's wonderful that she was there to be part of this.
Seriously, we can't overlook the possibility that it's just that you need a witness in the room where Harry's concerned. You need someone to bear witness to what was said and what wasn't said, surely.
I mean, we know that when he went to Clarence House, Harry, last time, he was made to go through the visitor's entrance and not the private entrance. And that's maybe because they did want to check him for recording devices, something like that. I mean, honestly, and you're right about Camilla, the Queen wanting to be there to make sure that, you're right, no words were thrown, because Harry had, we spoke about it, terrible week. He was clearly in quite a disenfranchised mindset, and it could have gotten tense. I think he wouldn't do that in front of the children, and we are hearing reports that there was a bit of awkwardness between when the children met the king. And, you know, obviously they haven't seen him in years since they were babies. So
This
there
is your
would have been
grandfather.
that.
And they've
Yeah.
grown up watching him on the television.
Yeah.
But the other thing I was wondering about that is in the gardens, because of their cousins, the king's got different things for them when they're there to kind of go and do.
Right.
And I wondered if it's possible that maybe they were sent off at some point so that they could have a private, I don't know, so they could have a private chat, because there's enough people there to kind of wander off with them.
I think those children, my guess is those children would have been there all the time so that you can talk through the children.
icebreakers.
Oh, okay.
Exactly.
So that, and then it
Because
keeps
really,
the conversation safe.
the idea of Camilla and Harry meeting again after everything he's written about her in that book, I mean, hats off to her for being the bigger person to go and have that meeting.
And doesn't it speak volumes as well, as you say, Joe, that the king wanted Camilla by his side? I'm sure very much as a pillar of support. And also, I think I was always told that the red line that was crossed for the king, as far as Spare was concerned, was when Harry attacked Camilla, when he made it... His point of view was that Camilla had thrown Harry under the bus and was selling him out so that she came across better in the public eye.
Yeah.
I mean, really, a really damaging and frankly nasty thing to say about someone, that she was the stepmother that neither William nor Harry wanted. So enraging William as well, because Harry's speaking on his behalf. And so I think it says a lot about Camilla that she was there, and a lot about Charles's absolute dependence on her.
Now, you mentioned William there. Where do we think his head is between being absolutely furious that that olive branch has been extended in the wake of all that betrayal that you've just listed, or just thinking, it's my dad, he wants to reconcile with his son?
Furious. And actually, I understand that, you know, that William and Catherine weren't actually told about that meeting taking place.
That's
so
what I was wondering.
You can only imagine how that's gone down with them, because William has made it very clear that, as far as he's concerned, there will be no reconciliation anytime in the near future with his brother.
I mean, I keep saying, and getting pilloried for it in the comments, sorry, but it's like, this is a problem that at some point or another does need containing, the Harry and Meghan problem.
Absolutely.
It becomes the narrative with the royal family all the time. So I'm not saying this as a we should forgive Harry sentiment, but we need to contain the Harry problem. So maybe William needs to get over it at some point.
No, absolutely. I think Harry and Meghan were super opportunistic. They want to get their foot in the door while the king is still alive, because they know that that door is going to be closed forever once William becomes king. That is happening. So I agree with you, though, that in a way, keep your friends close and your enemies closer with Harry and Meghan. The king does have to almost extend that olive branch to make sure he could silence them a little bit, shut them up, stop them from leaking, stop them from saying terrible things about the establishment and the firm. So it is quite a power move in the king and queen's sort of view, in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, while Harry was in town for the Invictus Games, let's not forget that, and a reunion with his father, he also made a stop-off at a rugby podcast and made quite the revelation.
Occupation.
Full-time dad, British Army veteran, Prince of England, Duke.
Let's just go back into that in order of importance there, these occupations. Father, what was the next one? British veteran.
Yeah.
Prince of England.
Duke.
Duke. Are any of those occupations? That's my first question.
I'm going to say, what is this man doing with his time? All right, full-time dad. Never going to knock a full-time dad, but please
that's
don't
not
tell
true,
me.
is it?
Please don't tell me they don't have nannies and staff and people helping them out.
How often do we think that Harry's been at the bottom of a grubby ball pit? I think not very often.
Around the chicken coop with Archie and Lily. I mean, I'm sure he does all of that, and I'm not knocking him as a hands-on dad. He clearly is, but full-time dad, not so sure about that. What were the other ones? Veteran?
Veteran, you know, hats off, but that's not a job.
And we're not belittling anything that he's doing with Invictus, because actually the one thing I really liked about this podcast was having JJ Chalmers come on and talk about this amazing initiative. It is a brilliant initiative. Love everything about Invictus. But beginning to wonder what Harry does with his days.
But did you not sense a little bit of bunny in the headlights hesitation when even the question was... And again, it makes me sad. It's like, you know, when I think about the path that could have been, he could have been
so different.
A fantastic working royal.
But see, when he said about the Prince of England, I think I said to you guys that what was interesting was that when William signed the register and it said occupation, he wrote Prince of the United Kingdom. So obviously that is a sort of job, I suppose. Now, I wondered if that's why Harry suddenly came out with the... I don't know where the Prince of England came from.
Well,
and
he is still Prince of the United Kingdom.
He is, absolutely. So maybe that is
stripped of those
kind of
titles.
past, yeah.
He does retain those titles. He doesn't mention author, does he?
No.
And yet, you know, we know how much money Spurs made.
Broadcaster.
Doesn't mention podcaster. Doesn't mention TV producer.
I was going
to say about Netflix.
They're all former jobs. Well, they're all former jobs that he listed off. That's what really made me think, okay. And it made me also think, is he unemployed? Because that's kind of what he's saying here and admitting to, which is fine. But when they moved over to California, they positioned themselves as sort of the second coming of Barack and Michelle Obama. And he had everything presented to him on a silver platter. He had Netflix contracts. He was offered to be a TV producer. As you said, he produced Polo. That was a flop. He also got a very cushy job at a mental health AI firm, which reports say he never even really showed up to or wasn't very plugged into.
The Travelist thing.
There was the Travelist thing. He was cropping up at a property conference over in Canada, you know, to make a couple thousand. So he is very lost and baseless. And this came across really, really truly in this podcast.
What I will say is, you know, there's been a lot of debate about some of the content of the conversation, but you did see glimmers of the Harry of old. You did see the relaxed, cheeky, funny chappy. But what did you make, Samara, of... Was this the right tone? Was this well placed? I mean, there was talk of shitting in showers and I mean, it was just like, excuse me.
That's very much Harry.
Excuse me.
I mean, the Queen would be rolling in her grave at some of the stuff that was said on that podcast, because the whole thing about the royal family was that it was the mystery and the mystique that kept them interesting, actually, to the public.
There's very little mystery with Harry these days.
Yeah, and
I know a lot about Elizabeth Arden cream and what you can do with that on a frostbitten William.
You know a lot about his intimate areas.
I really do,
yeah, and his mid-pubic hair, I just don't want to know about it. I mean, Tom Sykes wrote a great piece just saying, look, we just don't want to go there with you,
TMI.
Harry. Very TMI. And I think he's ill-informed. You know, William went on a sports podcast a couple weeks before him, Travis Kelce's podcast, Taylor Swift's boyfriend, and I feel like this was... Husband, husband now, oh my gosh. Trying to one-up him a little bit. This is Harry trying to do that. And unfortunately, I don't think he struck the right tone. I think we do want a little bit of... Gosh, I mean, a bit of decorum when it comes to even ex-royal family members.
And probably, for his brand, some consistency. So, like, are you the barefooted mental health guru who wants to tell us about your trauma endlessly? Or are you the cheeky chappy who, you know, does what I aforementioned? Or, do you know what I mean? It's like, I feel like we don't know who he is, and I'm not sure he does.
I'd have liked to have heard him just simply say philanthropist. Because I think when
you should be his PR guru.
Yeah, well, someone could definitely do a better job.
I am puzzled because there's no way he would have gone into that podcast without knowledge of the questions.
Absolutely, Joe.
But they normally send you, don't they? They send you the
He will have
outline.
wanted... You know, this was a very sensitive... It's a very sensitive week. There were no questions about family meetups, no question about William, no question about security. Obviously, he'd been given the questions in advance, but... Therefore, you know, if you are Prince Harry or indeed his advisors, you're using this as a moment to showcase you. And I agree with you, Samara. I think he came across as, yes, being a bit laddish and a bit fun. And there's nothing wrong with that, but a bit directionless, a bit rudderless. And philanthropist would have been a great answer, because when they left and Megxit was created, I remember being told by their team at the time, this is to give them an opportunity to work on Archwell. He didn't mention Archwell in that podcast. He didn't mention any of his charitable initiatives.
Well, thankfully, Invictus got a good shout, which is really important. But I think we need to spare a thought for the ginger community, because he did sort of like eschew them. And my mum's a ginger. You know, they've had him as their poster child. Why is he saying, "I'm not ginger"? No,
I know,
I'm
justice for gingers.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not. That was pretty left of field, wasn't it? I mean, that was a very strange.
Do you think he was joking when he said he was Auburn, or do you think he's had a lifetime of bullying about being a ginger and he is Auburn?
I think that's his humour. I think he thinks that is him being funny.
Yeah, maybe give him the benefit of the doubt.
You know, that is the extraordinary bit. I think he was always a bit like that though, because sometimes he used to say or joke at something, and you would seriously, you would have to think, is he being funny or is he being serious?
But I felt like that a little bit in this podcast where he was ribbing Joe Marler, who was very entertaining.
Yeah,
but a couple of times the joke felt a bit
on the line.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. And that was exactly how he used to be. Isn't it interesting? I mean, this is 15, 20 years ago, and it's almost like he's still the same. I know they sometimes say that, don't they, that sometimes men don't really grow up. They kind of still stay that kind of childlike. But he really has. It's almost like he has kind of stayed where he was 15, 20 years ago, which is extraordinary.
In trauma.
Trauma, yeah.
Well, anyway, moving on. He's not the only Sussex who's had a television appearance. Meghan managed to squeeze in a trip to Australian MasterChef while she was on her quasi-royal tour in Sydney. I can't wait till somebody tells her that she's really aced the Bolognese challenge. That's one of my favourite quotes ever from Australian MasterChef. I mean, what do we think? It's like, again, it's that mixing of philanthropy and public duty with a bit of... Do you think she would have got paid to do MasterChef?
I don't know, but I think there's a massive dose of self-promotion.
What was she making? Do we even know what she was making? Was it scones or?
Was she judging?
We haven't seen the segment yet. So this was shot while they were on that crazy royal tour in Australia. We've yet to see it, but astonishingly, she's also been nominated for an Emmy, hasn't she? For her own cookery show.
Daytime Emmy.
But it's still got
Thanks for the hierarchy check. Yeah.
Just want to say.
It's still got the word Emmy in there, which I just think is astonishing, given this series has been now dropped, I think, Joe,
well, it's a cancelled series, so it does beg the question, what wasn't nominated? How bad were those shows? That's what I want to know.
You've still been nominated if it's been dropped, yeah. You must be.
Well, she's been nominated on the first 2 series that have gone out.
In fairness, I've been on magazines that have folded that have been nominated for
okay.
awards.
Okay.
We heard, though, that behind the scenes on MasterChef, the producers called her a royal and called her Meghan Markle, and she wasn't very, or her team wasn't very happy about that. So that's something to look forward to when
It's so interesting, isn't it? That, you know, the deployment, the selective deployment of, oh, I just want to live authentically. I'm not a royal. I don't want to use my titles to... Excuse me, I'm Sussex now, and I am the Duchess of Sussex. It's like,
and I always remember whenever I'd meet Harry, it was always just call me Harry. And I've just seen such a reversal in all of that. The cynic in me is going to wonder if the organisers of the Emmys have done this deliberately to secure the Duke and Duchess of Sussex at the awards ceremony. Because, of course, he is still the Prince, not just of England, he's the Prince of the United Kingdom and the realms. He's still in the line of succession. Those titles still carry weight, which is why they are so important to them.
And a council of state. I mean, that's really important because, God forbid, but if the king was unable to fulfil his duties, there's other council of state, but technically it means that Harry could step into that role and act on behalf of his father. Highly unlikely, but it's possible.
I have organised award shows in my time, and I know that playbook very well. You nominate the people who you want to come. I can't see Meghan wanting to sit there with a gracious loser face if somebody else gets up to get the prize. So if they wanted to go, they're going to have to tell her she's won.
OK. So they will be told in advance.
Yeah.
I just think, come on. I mean, they left one of the greatest families in the history of ever for a daytime Emmy. I mean, is this what it's come down to? It's a little down market.
It's really odd, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really is.
Well, apparently she turned down the offer to go to the Emmys some years ago. So you may well be right. I mean, you did Glamour, didn't you, as an editor of Glamour for many, many years.
Yeah.
If they're enticing her with the promise of an award, I mean, it will elevate the Emmys to have Meghan and Harry there. Simple.
Will it?
It will get it coverage, without a doubt. It'll be on the front pages, 100%.
And one other thing to quickly mention, just when you were saying about titles and how she likes to, Sussex, did you know, this is a bit of a weird fact, that technically she's a princess through Harry, because he's obviously prince, and as such she's Princess Henry.
Right.
So she could. I'm amazed.
Don't give her any ideas.
Well, I was going to say, but I'm amazed she hasn't turned around and said, call me princess, Because technically she could say that, but she hasn't, interestingly. Not as of yet. Maybe after this, now she will.
I'm sure she watches this and she'll have an idea. Yeah.
The HRH title does still seem to slip out on the embroidered letterhead and everything else, doesn't it? When the time is right, when there's some fruit spread.
Anyway, well, good luck with the daytime Emmys.
To be promoted.
Yeah.
Well, meanwhile, we've had the Princess of Wales and the Prince of Wales at Wimbledon this week. The Princess of Wales has been actually quite a regular fixture there over the course of the week, but she was, of course, there for the finals with 2 of the children. Louis was absent, And I think a bit much of an ask for a little 5-year-old to sit through a long tennis match, which is exactly what the four of them did.
In a heat wave, yeah.
In a heat wave. And the princess
smart little George is.
Looking very smart, very tall, and the four of them together. And I think, you know, Wimbledon wouldn't be Wimbledon without strawberries and cream and the Princess of Wales.
Absolutely.
Joe, the dress that she was wearing, can we just discuss that quickly?
Always. I'm always... She doesn't like it when we discuss her outfits,
do we know
but I
who
do.
the designer was?
It's Amelia Wickstead.
OK, so
Beautiful
someone
green.
that she's worn before. I mean, I would say quite an autumnal green. I'm not sure I'd go for that colour, but...
Oh, it's very on trend.
It's very...
Miss Katie.
The cape dress?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't understand how she manages to sort of regulate her temperature when she's wearing a woolen cape dress.
No one does. We famously, we know it's Andrew who doesn't sweat. But I don't know what our princess's secret is, because it's not the first time I've seen her looking absolutely gorgeous at Wimbledon. There was that blue suit and thinking, I don't know how she's doing that.
How did she do it?
Did you see she did have a little fan? A few people noticed her little electric fan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I would need an entire air conditioning at my feet if I was wearing that dress.
Under my skirt.
She's superhuman, though, isn't she?
Yeah.
Like the way that she...
Apparently.
I mean, remember when they used to go to tropical countries and she'd still have a perfect blow wave? And I'm thinking, what are you... Like, I'd have an afro if that happened to me.
Well, I tell you something funny. I've been to several hot countries with them, and William has made a joke before about how much time needed to go into Kate's hair, because it did tend to go a bit frizzy in that humidity.
You're right. Yeah.
But she always looks flawless, and she also looked flawless at the polo, because William and Catherine were at a charity polo match. Now, when I was a good old royal editor all those years ago, polo matches were part of my staple week. You know, we were always at a polo match.
Did you enjoy it?
I could not tell you how that game is played. I've never understood it. It's good. I'm usually having a nice glass of champagne from the sidelines.
That's what I was going to say, the champagne.
That's what I enjoy about the polo. I've never understood the game, but it is fast and furious. I think, actually, because of their busy schedules, neither of the princes have much time to play anymore.
Look at this
these
footage.
days.
It looks quite terrifying to me. It looks like a scary game.
It's a full-on game, but I think lovely that William played. He was playing to raise money for charities. They raised over £1 million, and you see the princess there at the centre with the team, with the trophy. And I think just lovely to see them on a day out, but really lovely that they're able to take part in these occasional charity polo cups, because, yeah, £1 million is a huge amount. And, of course, it doesn't just go to any charity. It goes to 10 charities, many of which are really close causes to the Prince and Princess. So you have donations to the Evelina London Children's Hospital, which Catherine visited the other week, and The Passage, which is, of course, the homeless charity that William is involved with. So they don't... He doesn't play polo very much anymore. His father, the king, had to give up when he was younger because he had a bad back. William is still able to play. It's more diary restrictions that don't enable him to. But I think great that he's able to do it for charity.
I also say I love, we've talked about this, the etiquette of the kiss. You know how the public displays of affection, it's so nicely done with the royals, because when he went over to see his wife and it's a kiss on the cheek, and it's all very, very elegant, very royal. I like that.
Yes, it was a kiss on the cheek, not a proper kiss for the cameras. I'd have liked to have seen a proper kiss.
No, is that... You'd like to see that?
I think,
you want tongue from the royals?
Oh my God, she's going to make me blush on national television.
I wonder where that was going.
I wasn't going to go that far, but the moments that I think I've seen the Prince and Princess at their most candid is often when they think the cameras are off of them.
Yes.
And you'll see one of them slip their arms around each other, or there's a little kiss, and it's rather lovely to see. And they do look very happy.
Do you remember once them skipping down a road together? Do you remember that wonderful picture? And Kate was kicking her heels to the side.
I think that was in Canada.
Many years ago.
I think it was in
so
Canada.
Cute.
Yes.
It was so cute.
Very, very lovely.
But you're right. That's the special moments.
Well, speaking of amazing couples, we've got King Charles and Queen Camilla. Now, Camilla is turning 79 on the 17th of July. She's nearly up for the big 80, but what an incredible life this woman has had. And I can never think about Camilla without thinking of the absolute 180, I suppose, that's been her life story and her trajectory with the public. I mean, Samara, you're from my neck of the woods, from where we were sitting. Did it ever look like we would see this after, you know, the hideousness that the Australian media broke of Tampon Gate when she was just persona non grata with so many people. And look where we are now, where she's like one of the most popular royals.
Absolutely. And not to bring Harry back into this, but it is crazy that they did meet, considering the sort of work that Harry tried to do with Spare, dragging her image again through the mud after it had been rehabilitated. I think that she has been such a jewel for the royal family and actually such a stoic partner for Charles. And they've just had actually such an iconic love story, something that you can look back on. And yes, it's had, you know, its issues, its lows, its highs and its triumphs, but she has proven to be a brilliant life partner for him. And you're right, the trajectory, my goodness, you couldn't even write that if you tried.
No, it's just her patience and, I suppose, the quiet dignity with wearing the scarlet letter basically imposed upon her by society is extraordinary.
I think from my point of view, I mean, when I joined the household, she wasn't actually married to him at that point. And I don't know if I've said to you, but when I had my interview, that's the very first time I met her. She was in the room, which completely surprised me because I knew I was meeting him, but I didn't know I was going to meet her. And at the time, I was really confused. I was thinking, why are we meeting? But the thing that I remember was she was so nice. And during the interview, I was so nervous. And she kept kind of smiling and offering me more tea. And he was great. He was interviewing me. But she was almost, can I say, a bit like a kind of mother figure, kind of, because I think I'm almost the same age as Tom and Laura. Right. And she made me feel really relaxed. And when I got the job and started working for him, he was great. Don't get me wrong, he was absolutely amazing. But she was extraordinary because she would keep coming up to me and she used to kind of write little letters and notes, and at birthdays and Christmases I'd be given personal. Just she would go and buy something for me and give it to me, and that was the kind of. And I remember thinking, and my mother was not. My mother was a Princess Diana fan.
Well, the cult of Diana was strong.
It was strong.
Yeah.
And so my mum wasn't really that. But what was interesting, over the course of a couple of years, and she saw these letters and she saw the gifts, my mum even changed her opinion. And a lot of people did. A lot of friends and family did change their opinions.
I think a lot of people around the world have changed their opinion. I mean, I write for Vanity Fair. I'm very much in touch with that international audience. And I think amongst a certain age demographic, there are still people who will still blame Camilla for the breakdown of the marriage. But I think they are very much a minority. I think the majority of people see a wonderful Queen consort. And I think actually the ringing endorsement came from the late Queen, because when Queen Elizabeth II made it known that it was her express wish, and she knew she was coming to the end of her life, that Camilla was to be Queen. If it was the Queen's wish, then actually it was for all of us to accept, which we did. And I think you've seen that ripple effect.
Interestingly, that must be difficult for both William and Harry. When I have said before on this show, Charles and Camilla, it's really a love story of the age. They obviously clearly loved each other. He probably shouldn't have married Diana. And it must be painful to hear people say those things. But it is what it is, right?
Yeah, and I also think they've done so much for showing what blended families can look like, especially in the royals. You know, there are always going to be problems meshing people together. And also, look, it was a textured past. I was also just, when I was thinking about this birthday, I was thinking about her 50th, which was at Highgrove. And, Diana was famously in the south of France on the Al Fayed yacht getting those photos so she could steal the headlines. And it was such a tumultuous time. So I think that she has proven herself to the public through her active service and the way that she has just shown up consistently, and I think that she's won them over.
It's also that Harry, I'm right in saying, called her dangerous and a villain, and I found that really strange because, again, when I was there, they had all of them had a great relationship. Including Harry. And I also remember ahead of the wedding, there was all this excitement. I'm sure we spoke this before, but even the night before, there was so much excitement, and Harry was part of that. And at the wedding, and I've even spoke to other colleagues to check that I'm not getting this wrong, but the two boys were completely behind. They were involved in the planning. After the reception at St George's, we all went outside, and Harry and William had all the cans attached to the back of the car. And as they were driving off, Harry's like really getting us all riled up. And so where all this villain and dangerous and all this comes from is just extraordinary because we never witnessed that.
Well, it says a lot about Camilla and her personality and her characteristics that I think she was probably very much behind last Friday's meeting. And as hard as it may have been for her to be there, she's put that behind her. She's been the bigger person. And ultimately, family has always been first and foremost. And I would also say that she has been instrumental in Charles being closer now than ever to William and Catherine and their children, and perhaps paving the way for a reconciliation. Let's not also forget, as well as the important role she plays within family and over here in Britain, on the international stage, because she was right by the King's side for that all-important state visit, and not necessarily easy in that role. She is at an age in her life when most people are retiring, they're putting their feet up, and they're looking forward to, you know, gardening. Not Queen Camilla.
And you see how emotional she gets in the last couple of years with the King's health, and there's been a few occasions when she's broken that you can see her getting emotional. And you think it's amazing, because I know I can see how much, when I was there, how much they adore each other and how much they love each other. And to see how what's been happening has been affecting her, and obviously she worries about him, and can also say she's great with him. Because, you know, like everybody, you can have good days and bad days. And we've seen him get frustrated, but I've also witnessed behind the scenes how she makes him laugh.
I thought it was amazing, you know, the famous pen gate when Charles had his little temper tantrum with the pen. And my heart really went out to him, because I felt like that was just the most classic case of displaced grief and anger in the wake of the Queen dying. Yeah. And Camilla, you could just see her role in the relationship in that whole clip where she's just
calming it down.
OK, let's just get through this. So she's his rock.
She really is.
She is, and I think one day we will look back at this love affair, this relationship, this royal romance, and probably say it was one of the greatest of all time.
Yes.
Anyway, moving on, because we must. Princess Anne.
Another goat, greatest of all time.
What a great of all time. She really is quite a formidable person. She has been in South Korea carrying out yet another series of official engagements. I mean, she really doesn't stop. 200 charities and organisations that she represents. She clocks up just as many engagements, almost, as the King. And she does it tirelessly and always with a smile on her face. Here she is meeting Korean war veterans.
It's unusual to see her with her husband on these things, which is great, isn't it?
Well, he is actually often there, but more often than not in the background. So not always photographed, but you did catch a glimpse of him then. And I understand this summer they will be sailing around the British Isles, because that's what they do every summer. There will be time spent up in Scotland.
And she will be spotting lighthouses.
She loves
I can't remember the name of that hobby, but that's what she loves doing.
It is. I was lucky enough to sit down with the Princess Royal. It's about 5 years ago now. I interviewed her for a cover story for Vanity Fair. And in the course of my research, because I knew my research needed to be forensic, because she is forensic about everything, the lighthouse story came up. But she said one thing to me, and it's always stuck with me, and it was clearly said for a reason. I asked her for a message for the future generations of royals, because I think she set such a wonderful example as a role model. And I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember exactly, but it was something about not changing the wheel too much, not trying to change things too quickly, which was interpreted as a subtle message to the Sussexes, and one that I think was quite profound.
And with security, can I just mention, she lives local to me, so we often see her out and about. And quite often, you talk about all this security and everything, she's on her own. She has got personal protection somewhere nearby, but especially she's off shopping, she is on a mission. I promise you, we watch and you see her going from one shop to the next really quick, and you've got the security, the police somewhere in amongst kind of foreign, but none of this big security thing.
Take note, Prince Harry.
It's interesting, isn't it, Samara? Because on one hand we've got, you know, the sort of like the big fanfare, we're coming, we're not coming from the Sussexes. We need security, we don't need security. Meanwhile, Princess Anne is in Korea having really quite high-level business meetings with people like the head of Hyundai and people like working on deals that will move forward the British economy. It's a bit of an embarrassing juxtaposition for the Sussexes, don't you think?
Absolutely. I mean, Anne is fantastic at that diplomatic gymnastics that the royals really do have to achieve. And they don't make them like her anymore. I think she represents a type of royal that, unfortunately, probably we won't see in the future. And Harry and Meghan do represent the new fold, the ones who are constantly headline hunting, looking for the optics in everything. Will I, won't I? What am I entitled to? This and that. It's not about the service for them. Whereas for Anne, it is very much about the service.
But how do you think that compares then to the William and Catherine model that we so often hear that they want to bring in, with sort of like doing less, you know, fewer engagements that mean more. But then you've got Anne just knocking them down, like, you know, just...
Yeah, you're
crazy.
right. I mean, I've got a bit of time for Catherine and William trying to raise their children correctly. I think we've seen what absent parenting can do to some of the other royal kids. Andrew, cough, cough. But I think that I actually don't mind them.
Well, he was the
taking a
one that
break.
got the Queen's attention.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
Mummy's favourite.
Yeah.
But I think that I don't mind them doing that. And, you know, William's had a terrible time with what's happened with Catherine. So I think in a way, maybe in the future, they will go and take on more duties. I do hope we see that from William and Catherine. And if we look at the past week, I think they are back in business.
Yeah. Well, one thing's for sure is that they do keep us busy, but that is all we have time for on this week's The Royals Uncensored. Thank you to our guests, Samara and Dai Davies. And if you enjoyed this episode, please think about liking and subscribing on YouTube, and we will see you next week.